Listen, we're all on the same page here. We're done letting the world turn us into weak, emasculated little boys with no sense of responsibility. We're not going to let the modernist plague infect our psyche, and we're going to be strong. We all agree here, but do we really? We may be pursuing the same ideas, but what does that really consist of? Now that we're on this journey towards freedom, now that we're working to escape the matrix, are we safe? Are our minds free from the influence of dark entities? Or are there numerous pitfalls we can still fall into even if we're on the self-improvement tip? In my experience so far, I've seen 5 huge missteps, and every young man has made at least one of them, myself included. By far one of the most common pitfalls I see young men falling into is an overall obsession with fitness. By no means am I discouraging anyone from lifting, eating well, and taking care of their body. We're all fat phobic around here. Exercise is obviously essential, and while you're young, you need to be getting your nervous energy out in a productive way. Yes, lifting hard and on a consistent basis is an excellent habit that everyone should practice. It only becomes a problem when you start to neglect other aspects of your life and make the gym the sole authority over you. I see tons of young dudes falling into this where they're totally obsessed with their appearance, they're obsessed with making progress in the gym, and this becomes their only source of fulfillment. And I think most of these guys would tell you themselves that this is not a balanced or fulfilling lifestyle. There's a lot more to life than your appearance, and there are other forms of strength which you need to be developing alongside your physical body. And of course, you're going to feel better in the gym if you're taking care of other priorities as well. The last thing you want to do is make the gym an idol. If you become a meathead, you will be less interesting to women, more bored and depressed when you're outside of the gym, and an overall less productive member of society. A solid man is going to take care not only of his body, but his mind, his status, his skills, and his spirit. Most importantly, his connection to God. Now, if you're exceptionally gifted, you're going to be able to make a career out of bodybuilding or powerlifting or something of that nature. Obviously, that's different. But the average person is not actually being productive if all they do is work out. You're giving yourself the illusion that you're moving up and improving when all you're doing is putting all of yourself into one little thing that has value, but it's not doing enough. It doesn't make you a high value person. It doesn't make you a contributing member to society. At the end of the day, it's always bad to put all of your eggs in one basket. And that leads me perfectly into number 2, which is the money obsession. Typically, you're going to see a lot of people falling into this trap on the other end of the self-improvement spectrum. These people might be neglecting their physical health to a certain extent to focus more on making money, which is an equally bad idea. Making money your god, it's a huge mistake. It's a tale as old as time. You would think by now we'd have learned our lesson. But unfortunately, we're creatures that learn through experience, not through advice. Now, just like the gym, I want to preface this and say that men do in fact have a responsibility to develop financially. If you intend to ever contribute in a meaningful way to a community or to have a family, you need to have solid income. However, this is another situation where our priorities have to be kept straight. Money should never come before God or our health or our pursuit of moral virtues. And it's also very dangerous to get attached to the things that money can buy, diving into hedonism as so many rich people do. It's really easy to forget that money is a tool and it should be used to better the world, not to satisfy your carnal urges. The more money you have, the more discipline is going to be required from you. You have to practice self-control so that you can control the money and not have the money control you. Let's not forget either that money is a long game. Your ability to build wealth is going to significantly increase as you upgrade your other skills and attributes. Don't try to get rich quick when you have nothing of value to offer the world. Instead, we should focus on acquiring an arsenal of knowledge that is undeniably valuable that we can then monetize. Like we said already, money is about discipline. You have to be able to spend it wisely and not waste it on nonsense. If we can maximize the efficiency with which we spend our money, we shouldn't ever have real financial worries. Lots of people are motivated by the idea of not having to work, but truly, I don't think it's wise to chase a life that is free of struggle and stress. A huge part of the human experience is struggle. As men, life in many ways is war. In the modern world, we've gotten pretty far from this reality. And I don't think it's in our best interest to fantasize about a life where we are completely free from the obligation to work. Instead, I say, build a resilience and a love for work that will sustain you. Moving on to number 3, we have the Playboy mindset. That might sound really corny to you, but this is a super important lesson. Now, chances are, if you're pursuing a life of high-value masculinity, then you're probably on NoFap, you're probably attempting to quit porn, you're probably pursuing some type of sexual discipline. And that is an excellent thing, and if you haven't gotten that far yet, you've got a lot of work to do before you worry about anything else. But as for the rest of us, we aren't off the hook either. You may have stopped jerking your gherkin, but are you really practicing self-control? Lust is the most powerful source of energy, and we must learn to control it through discipline. One of the worst pitfalls on the road to self-mastery is becoming a victim of the female attention you gain as you improve and move up in status. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a social life, pursuing a relationship, and dating around. However, every man of merit has a choice to make when it comes to women. Either take a disciplined approach to finding a loving partner, practicing abstinence, and letting the right woman come to you as you experience life. Or you can take a path of self-isolation. So don't kill the messenger here, but you're essentially a monk or you're a husband. And those are the two high-value paths in this world. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weak men posing as strong men who want to shirk the responsibility of sexual activity, making themselves a pleasure drone no better than your average soy bot. The Andrew Tate types love the idea of having a harem of 100 virgins who worship their man like a god, but would never put the effort and energy into raising a family and helping a woman to fulfill her purpose. This selfish worldview is completely vile and a spiritual suicide. You have to realize that sex is not a need. It is a desire. And it can only be properly fulfilled within a certain framework. If you don't want marriage, that's completely fine. You should throw yourself into your own spiritual development and become a figure of piety. Otherwise, you've got a responsibility to maintain your purity to the best of your ability and search for a woman who's going to be loyal and long-suffering in married life, in rearing children, and worshiping God lifelong. I understand that that's not easy to come by, and that's why for a lot of young men, I think the path of being single is a lot more appealing. And by no means do I think it's less valuable. If anything, if we are to follow biblical teaching, we are to believe that it's actually more valuable. However, when it becomes a problem is when you are choosing to be single not out of self-sacrifice, but out of selfishness. We are choosing not to commit to a relationship because we don't want to have to sacrifice for another person. We don't want to have to change our lives or ourselves in order to accommodate a woman or children or a lifestyle that is suiting to that. That's when it stops being a pious decision and starts being selfish and wicked. You don't want a life of empty, meaningless sex with no love. If you struggle with women, you might be thinking that's what you want. You might be thinking that all you need is to shed this layer of insecurity and become someone who is sexually desirable, and then life will be good. But it's like anything else in life. You want it so bad until you get it, and suddenly you realize it's not what you were looking for. Man requires love, whether he gets it from a holy marriage, which brings the presence of God into his life, or from a life of complete abstinence and isolation, which attracts God's presence even stronger. Man cannot deny his need for real love. And this leads us perfectly into number 4, which is the drone mindset. A driven young man can get incredibly far in this life, especially one who commits himself to his disciplines with such veracity that he cuts out all distractions, refuses all pleasures, and dives headfirst into work. This is an incredibly admirable path, and it will certainly sow good seed. However, I observe many young men on this path of isolation, wholly focused on a single task, and completely empty inside, wishing for something more, just as the man who lives solely for pleasure. The trinity of man, the mind, body, and spirit, cannot be looked at unitarily. That is to say, you can't put all of your energy into building up one element of the triadic self. It's been said before, but balance is key. Priorities have to be taken. If you are going to choose one thing to put all of yourself into, it has to be the spirit. This is because God provides all needs for those who fully submit themselves to his will. But the gym will never increase your understanding of your purpose or teach you social skills. School will never give you the physical strength to overcome adversaries or protect your family or a community. And money will never fulfill you on a deep enough level to make life worth living. We have to be diligent in tending to all ends of the spectrum of life. Really, a man who is too focused on work and neglects all else has forgotten why he's working to begin with. What's at the end of this road which you're barreling down at the speed of light? What are you chasing after? Nobody wants to be a drone working day in and day out without a reason for it. Take a step back and consider if your discipline has become a vice. And with that, we come to a perfect crux to this video. For number 5, we have to acknowledge the king of all the modernist traps, the creme de la creme of self-sabotaging philosophies. Nihilism. If you aren't aware by now, nihilism is a foundational philosophy of the modernist regime. Nihilism is essentially the idea that there is no inherent meaning to life, and that any individual idea can only have meaning, form, or value when we arbitrarily assign one to it. So what's the bottom line? Meaningless floating rock with fancy monkeys. So a lot of you probably align with this worldview. I mean, it has been shoved down our throats our entire lives. And it's really a baseline presupposition for all modern thought. So why am I saying that this is the worst mistake to make on your journey towards freedom? Well, to answer that, let's consider why the entire world wants you to think like there's no meaning to your existence. Why does the establishment encourage this type of thought? Well, the fruits of nihilism can be easily observed when looking around the modern world. When you don't observe a unifying force which solidifies our concepts of love, morality, purpose, etc., then you can justify anything and you live for nothing. What reason is there to try at anything if you think there's no reason for your life? I think it's quite clear that the answer is that there is no reason to try at anything. So why then are you busting your ass? Why aren't you doing whatever feels good? Why aren't you getting what you want by any evil means necessary? If there's no meaning to the universe, then there's no such thing as evil.
Why don't you go rob somebody? Why don't you dominate the world?
You know what? At that point, why don't you just cease to exist? There's no reason for you to be here, so why are you? If the universe is meaningless and we're just a coincidental result of swings. And yet, here you are, grinding, working your ass off to get where you want to be in life, taking the road less traveled and forsaking what you see to be as wrong, choosing to take care of yourself, choosing not to hurt other people, choosing to contribute to society. That's because you know, deep in your soul, that there is a reason why you're here. You know that you will answer for what you do in this life. You know that this modern world, which thinks they can escape the consequences of their own wickedness, is mistaken. You just might not have seen the evidence yet. Frankly, I think that they've hidden the truth from you. They've made it seem impossible to quantify meaning and purpose, but they lied. You have to fight to see the truth. It won't be handed to you. Tell me, out of curiosity, what valuable thing in life has been handed to you? Oh, no? Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So why are you expecting God to show up in his human form at your doorstep and tell you that it's time to start praying every day? Let's be real here. Knowing the meaning of your life is the most valuable thing in existence. You're willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to have big-ass biceps. You're willing to put in the effort to make bank. You're willing to work hard to attract a good woman. But for some reason, you want spiritual edification for free. If you want to see your purpose, you must fight for it with every fiber of your being. We have to stop distracting ourselves. Stop trying to cope with a lackluster worldview that makes you sick to your stomach, and seek wisdom. All those that seek to know the one true God will find him, and they will be blessed by his wisdom and his love. I think that the ultimate complacency is a willingness to take no for an answer when you ask if there's any reason for you to keep on living. Before you get too involved with any other pursuits, my recommendation would be to resolve your contradictory worldviews. It will be work, but it will be worth it. Because we all want the same thing here. We want to be free from the lies. We want to be in charge of our own destiny. And we want to do right by those we love. People like us are the most important targets for the oligarchical regime to neutralize. I don't want to get into conspiracy talk, but I think we can all agree there's something fishy happening here. And they're trying to sap us of our value as human beings. Why would the people who are working hardest to be good people, to be contributing members of society, why would they be free from this targeted attack? We are the last people who get to live easily. We will never have the opportunity to stop fighting. Not until we lay our heads to rest and join God in his kingdom. Until then, we have to serve with diligence, constantly assessing our progress and seeking to further refine our understanding of life on earth. Never can we accept society's foolishness, weakness, and wickedness. Never can we sacrifice truth for comfort or rationality for contradictions. Such is the way of the world, and to this we will die.